Hey guys, I'm Catherine, and this is Little Bits of Heaven Homestead. This is week 3 of my Prepping 101 series, and we again are focusing on our short to mid-term food supply. So most all of these things would be considered mid-term, not necessarily short-term. We're not talking perishables here, like things like berries or fresh vegetables that when you buy them, their lifespan is ticking down from the moment you walk in the door. These things will have a relatively long shelf life. As far as the government guidelines, which follow those if you choose to or not, the best by dates on these are not necessarily fully set in stone. So, and especially in a survival situation, I would definitely chance them if they are beyond their expiration best by date. But you're generally speaking about a year on these kinds of canned goods. Things like beans and rice, you're talking 2 to 3 years, easy shelf life. Probably extend it several years beyond that and be beyond safe. Don't sue me if you get sick, but generally accepted, these will last beyond what the quote-unquote recommendations are. Things like beans and rice, I'm going to recommend them right now, right off the bat, because there is such a thing called food fatigue. And a lot of times people will eat all their most favorite delicious foods on the front end of whatever the scenario is, be it hurricane or your road is snowed in. In fact, we had that happen this past week. We had a series of 3 different events that reminded me how important it is to be prepared. So we had a blizzard come through, and they are quick to close our highway, which is for the best because it's definitely unsafe driving conditions. And then I lost my internet and my pipes also froze. And so I went a full day without running water. And so it's just, it fortifies the idea that it's never a bad idea to have some basic supplies on hand, because you never know what's gonna come. And it's not about preparing for a zombie apocalypse. It's about ensuring that you and your family have continuity of comfort. So foods that you enjoy are a biggie, and I will continue to beat that drum. Store what you eat what you store, rotate. So don't buy a bunch of food that you have no intention of ever eating and stick it on a shelf. And then when an emergency hits, you're down to food that you don't even enjoy. Bad idea, because in a survival or emergency situation, you're definitely looking for comfort. Comfort foods are comfortable for a reason. So think of that as you're prepping your shelves. So today I'm going to do quick breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, I would recommend you picking up a can of oats. I don't care what kind of oats it is, just some sort of can. Don't go for the prepackaged different flavors of breakfast. I mean, you can definitely put that on your shelf as a prep, but these things are multi-use. You can use them, I even use them in soap. So you're not just locked in a box of you're only gonna have cinnamon apple breakfast or whatever the prepackaged stuff is. This is gonna give you some flexibility. You can prepare it in different ways. You can make things like biscuits, bread, all sorts of things, cookies. So you're not just locked into breakfast, but this is what I'm gonna recommend for this week, putting on your shelf in the form of your breakfast. I want you to pick up 2 cans of fruit. I don't care what kind of fruit, something that your family will eat. I want you to pick up 2 cans of soup. I went for chicken noodle because, again, comfort food. Who wouldn't want chicken noodle soup if it was cold and blizzardy outside, or you're in a stressful scenario? Comfort food. 2 cans of vegetables of some sort. I am diehard Southwest, so things like tomatoes and chilies make life worth living. So there again, make life worth living. Can of meat of some sort. I am a homesteader, so I have all sorts of meat roaming around in my backyard. I actually helped my neighbor process some chickens, and as a thank you to me, they brought me 4 chickens, and so I spent the better part of a week canning chicken. This is a really economical way of putting a surplus on your shelf if you've got the availability to a pressure canner. Pressure canner is definitely necessary for canning meat. It's an investment, so I'm not gonna recommend that you can your own meat on this week, but this is what I did to put, and in fact, I put 25 of them on my shelf. So again, economical, but I would recommend you pick up some sort of can of meat to add to your shelf. Beans and rice, again, incorporate them into your meals on the front end. That's easy for me because, again, I'm from the Southwest, so beans and rice are pretty much in every dish. It's a good way to reduce your food costs in general, but this is also a staple on any prepper shelf. Beans and rice, rice and beans. So Dave Ramsey would also be proud, because this is one way he recommends reducing your family's consumption costs. So these will stay on your shelf as is. I would not recommend sticking them on your shelf as is. They do have little bug eggs, larvae, sometimes bugs themselves. If you've ever opened up a thing of flour and find the little black weevils, you can prevent that by popping these into your freezer for about a week. And so that's what I would recommend. You can also do something called dry canning. I found that freezing is super efficient. So just pop them in there for a week and then you can divvy them up. These bags will degrade, they'll let oxygen in, it'll increase your odds of spoilage and just not being quite as fresh as you would want it to be. So once you freeze these for about a week, you can put them into canning jars, if you can find canning jars. Apparently canning jars are the toilet paper of early 2020 because they are near impossible to find, but if you can find them, viable way of keeping your long-term dry goods storage. If you have oxygen absorbers, you can pop them in there. Again, I haven't found any need to necessarily, they keep just fine. If you can't find canning jars, I am a huge fan of soda bottles. So I use these for all sorts of things. I've recommended them highly for water storage, but for dry goods, these are just as good as canning jars, if not better. Hear me out. If you live in some sort of like earthquake prone area, or you have somebody like me in your household that drops things regularly and is like a bull in a china shop, these things are fantastic because they will take a beating and not break. Like, they're not very brittle. I've left them out in the sun for weeks, months on end, still don't crack. So these things they're like bomb proof. Not really, but they kind of are. And they're also a readily available resource. Disadvantage is they're plastic. Advantage is you are reducing and recycling, because otherwise this would be a trash product. So you can definitely incorporate it into your long-term, mid-term storage. So, okay. That is really all I've got for you guys today. I'm trying to do this on a budget. So what you see here in front of me is approximately $10 worth of food. That's not a bad insurance program to put on your shelf just to have just in case. Like I said, we're talking continuity of comfort here, not zombie apocalypse prepping. So if you are looking at it as far as it's an expense and it's out of your pocket, I hear you, I do. It's hard to justify spending it today if you're struggling. Also look at it as hedging your inflation bets, because I can guarantee you that none of this food is going down in cost. And it's very possible that we are going to see inflation like we've never seen in our lives. I don't know that that's gonna happen. I've got my fingers crossed that it doesn't. But you are hedging your inflation bets by purchasing now, because if you pay $1 for this today, and if a month from now it's $2 and you pick up another one and add it to your shelf, you can logically say that as a cost average, that rather than $2, these cans each cost you $1.50. So if it's $1 here and $2 here, the two of them combined would be $3. So you are cost averaging there. That's not a bad thing, guys. You are really doing yourself a favor by putting some food away for this metaphorical rainy day, but also to help your bank account. So, all right, guys, I hope this was helpful. So again, week 3, we are still working on our short-term food storage. I hope this was helpful. If you did get anything of value, please give this a thumbs up. If you think this may be helpful to somebody in your life, please feel free to share it. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, do so. I appreciate you guys joining me, and we'll see you soon. Until next time, guys. Bye.